Hello, and welcome to the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. Rachael is a speaker, counselor, and an overcomer. As Rachael is walking through her own journey of grief, she's challenging others to persevere and overcome their own circumstances. We pray that you will be encouraged by this podcast. Here now is your host, Rachael Flick.
Hey everybody, welcome back to this week's episode of the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. Today is part 2 with my interview with Gracie Parrish Miller. Gracie lost her husband Zach in the line of duty 5 weeks before my husband Micah was killed, and that death was only an hour north of us in Denver. She had 2 young children. One still was a baby when Zach was killed, and we have developed a relationship together through a shared loss, and we have done some of our healing work together. Today, Gracie and I are talking about what we would tell our younger first responder wife selves if we could go back. And so helping and supporting our police families, our fire families, our paramedic families, our dispatch families, living this first responder life. Gracie is now remarried and has 2 bonus children. Gracie, welcome back to this week's episode of the Hopecast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, we were having an awesome conversation, and it's so sweet to connect with you in this way because so few people understand line of duty loss, and I just love that we get to have this conversation. And one of the things that you were saying was that you wish that you had known to go to marriage counseling sooner to support the 2 of you living the first responder life.
Yes, I do. I think that it would have been instrumental for us as a couple. We never went to counseling in our marriage. There wasn't anything that was kind of like we really need this. This is really bad. And I think that that's unfortunate that as a culture, we put like counseling and therapy in this envelope of like only when it's getting really terrible do we pull out that contact info. And I wish that we would have done it as proactive and preventative to really make sure that we had a strong marriage and a strong communication. And I think, gosh, I just think it would have been so helpful. And I'm such an advocate for all married couples, regardless of their profession, to go to counseling. But I think specifically for first responder couples, I think it's imperative to go and to find a counselor that you can really speak honestly and have someone to be able to share with what you're feeling and thinking through, but for your spouse to hear your heart in that.
Micah and I did go to marriage counseling. He had been in law enforcement for 11 years, and we had definitely reached a point of critical mass where I was like, we need support. And Micah was so resistant because, for one, we have the American male culture that's like, I should be completely self-sufficient and have it all together. And that's a problem. And then we have agency or office culture with law enforcement where you shouldn't need help. You should be able to, manage the scene of a dead child, write your notes and go to your next call and need no processing and have that not affect you, which is not how the human mind works. And so after much cajoling and kvetching and begging and praying, Micah did eventually attend marriage counseling with me. And I love the analogy that he came out of it with. He said, counseling can be like a personal trainer where you go ahead of time and they give you tips and you build on the strength that you already have and you learn how to grow and improve. Or you can go to counseling like someone goes to the ER with a heart attack and you hope they can save you at the very last minute with the most life-saving measures available. And when you think about the choice between those 2 options, it's so much better to improve on what is working and catch problems early than it is to go in a crisis and hope they can save you.
Oh gosh, yeah. I think that it would be so helpful if we all had that mindset of it being a personal trainer and being able to identify so much of marriage and relationships as self-reflection. And yet we just don't do that well. And we're in the moment and we think we're right. And we don't want to sit back and go, maybe I could have done this differently. Maybe I could have said that differently and still got the end goal, but it would have saved so many relationships, so much time and heartache. And so I think that if I could go back, I would have pursued marriage counseling for Zach and I. I think it would have been so helpful for both of us. I would have pushed going to a marriage retreat. I would have pushed doing fun things together, like getting out of the monotonous race of raising children and being a first responder family and just go have fun, like just with the pure intention to laugh together and to do things shoulder to shoulder. Date nights were so much of this, like, all right, we're going to get a babysitter. We're going to go out to dinner. We're going to sit face to face and we're going to talk. We didn't need to talk. We needed to have fun. We needed to just go and be free spirited. Yes. And I wish we would have played more. I wish we would have spent more time, more energy, more money focusing on doing things together that brought us joy. I think that would have really benefited our relationship and helped to get him out of the law enforcement, just like the heaviness that it brought on him, where he'd work 4 days, he'd have 3 days off, but technically it was 2. And a lot of that time he was at court or waiting to go into court.
Right.
And it took so much of our weekends away from us, where he was graveyard. So he would come home from shift and sleep part of his weekend, and then he'd stay up the night before to prepare to do graveyards again. And so, counseling, retreats, having fun.
Yeah, taking intentional time away is so powerful.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be expensive. I think that that's the age-old excuse of like, well, time away, like concerts, traveling, trips. We don't have the money for that. We're a first responder family. And I want to say, you don't have to have money to go have fun. You can be very intentional and find things to do that are really low cost, to be able to do fun things, to have fun together, like date each other. But I wish too that I had a community of women that I could have really connected with, that could have taught me a lot about being a first responder wife and about what it meant, how my words, my encouragement, my attitude greatly could impact not just our home, but his heart as he was walking into his job.
Talk more about that. How can our attitude at home help our first responders do their job better and with more courage?
Yeah. I didn't learn this until after Zach was gone. And I wish I would have learned it before. It was something that in the process of that first year, grieving this like initial shock and loss, I was chatting with one of Zach's really good friends that he worked with and just telling him that, like when Zach and I would get in arguments and I would say this phrase to him, which I felt like was so normal, like, hey, like calm down. That would like suit huge triggers that would go to him. And I didn't know why he was being triggered. I don't even think he knew why he was being triggered. But the reality is that that's what he would say to someone as he was making an arrest and they were resisting him. And I wish that I could have had a woman who had gone before me say, and I really hope, like, gosh, I hope that a woman is listening to this right now and it just strikes a chord in her heart that she recognizes, like, that's me and my man, like, that's us, to be able to recognize, like, pay attention to what you're saying, not in the moment, but later on, ask your husband, like, hey, when I say this, I recognize maybe that you, like, maybe you get a little bit more intense or a little bit more angry. Do you say this at work, or is this something like, what do you feel when I say this?
That's great.
Like, I want to get to know you. I want to know your heart. I want to be a student of you and your personality and your interests, because I think that comes across not in a, like, why are you doing this? Why do you react in the way that when I say this, which is very defensive. It puts them on this defense, and you don't want to put a cop on defense.
Fight or flight. Do not put them into fight or flight at home if you can help it.
No. Yes, but very much of like, I love you, I care about you, I'm fighting for our marriage, and I want to best serve you, and I want to best communicate with you. Like, teach me how I can best communicate with you. It was Zach's friend that was like, well, the reason why he acts that way is because you're saying what he says to the guys on the street. I'm like, well, dang it.
Which you have no context for.
Oh, I wasn't on the street with him when he was making arrests, so I wasn't able to put 2 and 2 together on my own. That would have radically changed our arguments and the intensity of our arguments if I would have known that, if he would have even known that himself. And then I think too, as first responder wives, the job is hard. Like, let's be honest, it's hard. And it's hard with the amount of time that it takes away from our family, with them having to work all hours of the day and be gone. But there's a lot of how we approach our husband in those times that they're missing, because we're holding this balance of, we're this gatekeeper. I've got my home, my kids, our social life, our family life, our extracurricular life. And then I'm also supporting my husband when he's at work. For Firewives, like, he's gone for multiple
Right.
nights and you're on your own. Like, you have to fully step into that realm. And cop wives get it too, but for cops, they come home every 12 hours and firefighters don't. And so you're hanging in the balance and you're holding these two lives. And then you suddenly find out that you don't get paid time off, or you're unable to get this time for an anniversary, a birthday, a holiday, like fill in the blank, whatever it is. And you as a wife have the choice to respond. And how are you going to manage that? Our gut, our knee-jerk reaction is to be like, ugh, this sucks. Like, you've missed how many of these other times
Right.
before? And I want you home. And why can't so-and-so work
Yep.
it for you? Like,
Call
why can't
off.
Rookie do
Yep.
it? Why are you gone all the time? Yeah, call in sick. Like, please be home. What's more important? And we've just created a dividing line in saying that to our spouse. You either pick your job or you pick your family, but pick one. And I think that is a detrimental thing that you can do in your marriage, because that job is not just a job. This is a calling and it's a way of life. And those brothers and sisters out on the street or at the firehouse with your man are not just coworkers. They're
They would die for
family.
you. Our husbands have died for their coworkers.
Yes. Yes. And so when you say, like, pick one, you cannot do that, because saying, like, well, just call in sick. Well, what if they need me? We're already short staffed. I can't leave my family hanging out on the streets when their life could be hanging in the balance. And so that's where I think that as a wife, you have the choice of how do you respond. And I guess what I wish I could tell myself, my younger first responder wife self, I wish I could say, choose the latter. Don't choose to do this like, this sucks. I'm so frustrated. You need to make a different decision. Are we really going to do this? Like, it's all about me. I wish I would have said this. I wish I would have said, I'm bummed that you're going to miss Christmas Eve with the family, but I want you to know that I'm so proud of you. We can have Christmas Eve another day. We can do it before Christmas. We can do it after Christmas. It's not about the day. It's about being together as a family. How can we come visit you at work on Christmas Eve? Can we come see you? And I can't wait for you to come home. That would be a radically different space, because I'm accepting that this is the job. He doesn't have a choice in whether he works a holiday or he doesn't. He can try as best as he can to get it off. But if he can't, it is what it is. And to not ask him to choose between his job and the family, because it's not just a job. It's a calling and it's a way of life for them. And so I can either make my husband feel guilty and like I'm against him, or I can tell him that, like, I'm on your team and we're together. And that I support you, and that this is my calling just as much as your calling in this.
I wish that I had grasped that, of how powerful it would have been for me to speak into my husband's heart, to have compassion for his fears. He would tell me a lot. I'm having nightmares that I'm getting into an officer involved shooting in my gun jams. He would have that dream over and over and over again. And I really couldn't relate to it. I didn't know what he was sharing with me, that I'm going to get into a life or death situation and I'm going to be helpless. and just that sense of fear and overwhelm. And I would listen and I would try to be as understanding as I could. But if I had been in a group of first responder wives, which I didn't even know they had groups for first responder wives when I was in the first responder life, Micah did such a good job protecting us from, I mean, he wouldn't even tell people what he did. He'd say, I work for the county when people would ask. And so the idea that there were other women who were experiencing the same thing, who were feeling lonely, who were attending, events that other couples attended together, they were attending alone. I didn't know that that was common to the culture of the family of the first responder. And so it didn't even occur to me to ask. But if I had had that support, which I am encouraging first responder wives now to go and find, they might have shared those common things with me, and they might have encouraged me as, these are the things that they fear. These are the things that they come home with. This is what's going on with them when they come home shut down, silent, or angry or overwhelmed. Here's some reasons why that's been, and here's how you can help them get re-regulated, right? And here's how you can give them grace. I wish those are some of the things I wish I would have known.
Yeah. As we're chatting, I'm thinking about, there's wives out there that are doing everything that they can for their husband, and they're being supportive. They're being reflective on their words, their actions. They're trying to be very encouraging. And so I wonder even if, but what about the woman who feels like her needs aren't being met, that her husband is not present at home, that he is disengaged, and so the love languages are not being fulfilled, if not even trying to be met. There's very low active. Like I lived being a woman that felt like I was doing everything on the home front, and I felt like I didn't have a voice to be able to say like, hey, I need more. I need more time. I need more words of affirmation. And that's a hard place to be when you feel like you're trying to do everything. Like I could have done a lot better. And that's what I wish I could go back and change. But I guess I also just want to speak to the woman that's going, I'm trying my hardest, but I'm feeling so alone in my marriage and I don't know what to do. That like, I see you. I totally
Yeah.
get it. And that's a really hard place to be. And that is where I would say if your gentle conversation that's approached in humility, if that's not being received from your spouse with actionable steps to make things different, and to hear you out and to not like cast blame or make excuses or deny it, like if you're not being received with what you're asking for, but you got to make sure like you're speaking out of humility and a heart that cares and loves and that's not attacking, then I really do encourage to seek out counseling and to really
Yeah.
make that.
And if he won't go by yourself.
Go by yourself.
If he refuses,
Go by
go by
yourself.
yourself. And I think too, again, the finances were such a big thing for us, right? Like how much is this going to cost? And I know
Yep.
that there is a push in legislation in the first responder communities to make counseling more available for the families. And I know at least in El Paso County, there's a grant right now for any member of the first responder family, whether that's the child or the spouse or the responder, they can go and that cost is covered for them through this grant. And so I just want to encourage people because finances were always so tight for us. They were always so tight and it felt like, every dollar mattered. And that was always a huge hang up for Micah in being willing to do it. And so just to not feel discouraged, but to look creatively and see what's out there. And honestly, as a therapist, if you'll call a therapist and say, do you have a sliding scale? Do you have a discount for first responders? There are people out there who want to serve you. They want to help you. So don't be defeated before you've started.
Yes. Yes. I would say, I echo all of that. I would say reach out to the chaplain at your agency and ask them for the connections that they have. They probably know of counselors that give of their time 100% to first responders and their spouses for free counseling. There's counseling agencies that specialize just in first responders, and a lot of times the agencies will pay 100% of the costs for counseling services for the first responder, marriage, or their spouse. And then there's also nonprofits like the Shelter Foundation that I run and operate, where our goal is to provide counseling services to first responders in their marriage or with themselves, as well as scholarshiping couples to marriage retreats. And I know that's totally like, that's not meant to be a promotion. That's truly meant to be like, my heart is to
This is
offer.
such a need. Yes. Tell people about it.
I want people to be able to have the resources that I didn't have. And so if finances are a hang up, you don't have a chaplain, you don't have any connections, then go to the shelterfoundation.org and let me connect you with different counseling services for you as a spouse, for your first responder, and in your marriage. Let me scholarship you to a marriage retreat, because the marriages are on the chopping block right now for first responders. And we have to fight for this. And our first responders are fighting for the safety in our community, and dealing with, walking into a worst nightmare situation. And yes, it takes 50-50. It takes two people to fight for the marriage. But gosh darn it, like, be that first person to make the step and go, hey, let's get away. Let's go to a marriage retreat. And this scholarship available through the Shelter Foundation is not for marriages that are in trauma and in turmoil. They're preventative as well. Like, I want to see marriages blessed and restored. I want to see marriages that are strengthened, because I do believe that strong marriages are imperative. And so I think, go to counseling on your own. Make the step. Don't be ashamed to ask for help. I think social media has given first responder wives an incredible opportunity to connect in ways that, like, we didn't have Instagram groups and hashtags, and we didn't have all of that. At least I didn't when I became a cop wife. And so having the opportunity to see all these different profiles and pages and private groups, podcasts that are forming, it's an incredible resource and opportunity to really look to benefit your marriage, how you can serve your spouse, but also how you can be able to be proactive and you can speak up for your needs as well. I mean, yes, it is. We do want to support our first responders, and we want to be a very strong support system to them at home. But that also means that you yourself need to be healthy, and you can't lose yourself in this job and let the thin blue line become your identity. It can be a calling. It can be a way of life. It impacts your every moment, but it can't be your identity, because look at me. I lost it in a split second. It couldn't be my identity in that. And so I would say too, if I could go back in time, I would focus not, I don't want to say self-care, because I don't like that term, but I would say, find yourself and don't lose yourself in this. Have your hobbies, have your friends, have your ability. Are you getting enough exercise? Are you sleeping well? Are you eating well? Are you taking care of yourself? Are you putting the oxygen mask on yourself before you try to put it on something else? And so if that's you seeking out counseling for yourself, do it. Do all the things to make sure that you yourself on the inside out are strong and capable, and work on your marriage at the exact same time. I think it is very possible to do.
That's so good, Gracie. What an amazing challenge, and not just a challenge, but the support to sustain that challenge, and the tools and the resources for people who they want to do well. They just maybe don't know how, or they don't know what's available to them. And, I think something that's coming to me right now is, there's something, Gracie, that you and I have to offer the listeners that very few people can speak with authority into, and that is the rampant fear of the loss of their officer. And I just want to know, what would you say right now to the woman who's struggling to sleep, who's struggling with anxiety, who lives with fear, who's on the edge of a knife for that knock at the door? We have lost so many officers in the last couple years, and just over and over. And you and I are a living reality of the proof of that threat. But we cannot live waiting for the other shoe to drop. So what would you say to that first responder wife?
Gosh, I would say you can't live that way. You can't. And you're probably feeling it. If you're listening to that right now and suddenly you feel like you've just been seen, you recognize that it's exhausting. It's a constant adrenaline dump, that there's this constant state of fear. You're probably not getting good sleep. You're probably not living life to the fullest at all. And so I would say you can't live that way for the rest of your life and for the rest of your husband's career. How to not live that way, that's going to be very personal to each individual person. I would say you got to speak light and speak life into that fear. And so that means that you need to be able to open up and share that with someone. That's a safe place that you can say, I am living in a constant state of fear and I need help. If you try to keep that in the dark and hidden to yourself, it's going to eat you alive. And so I would say you need to open up, find a counselor, find a really good friend that you can speak really honestly with, not someone who's going to downplay it and tell you, you're fine, it's okay, don't worry about it. Like, find someone who you know is going to take you seriously, that you can walk through that with. I think in a lot of those situations, you're going to need to find some counseling and find some help. And I don't mean to speak that really frivolously. I did it myself. I went to counseling. I started going myself January of 2017. And I'm so grateful that I did. Gosh, that helped me in many ways. My biggest thing in finding peace, truly, that's the name of Jesus. And that is where my faith came in. And it would be in those moments where I would be panicked and I would truly just like, Jesus, I need you in this moment because I know that you have your hands on Zach just as much as you're near me. And so that is where my faith came into play. And I believe that God is sovereign over our days, our nights, and he knows the day that we will be born and the day that we will die. And it is not the day that I wanted it to be, but in God's sovereignty, that is the day that it was. And so I have peace and assurance in knowing that Zach is with Jesus in heaven because of his personal relationship with him. And I believe fully that I will see him again one day when I am in eternity. And I don't like the situation. I don't like walking through grief. I don't like seeing my girls ask, like, why do I not have a daddy at soccer and everyone else does? And I don't like all the triggers and the traumas that I've had to walk through. But Jesus is truly how I have been able to have peace through the darkest days. Jesus is who held me on the 31st when my world rocked underneath me. Jesus is who held me when I dealt with stalkers after Zach's death. Jesus is who has stood with me day after day, and he was there before Zach's death, he was during, and he's after. And so yes, I believe in all the work, like the measures that you can take earth side in going to counseling, finding someone that can speak into your fear, finding someone who can be your reassurance. But I believe fully in the peace of Jesus Christ. And I believe in reading scripture. I believe in worship music. I believe in acknowledging and understanding that he is the author and the Omega, and that he holds my days and I can trust him because I trust him with my life. And so I would say faith.
Preach it, Gracie. That's so good. That's so good. It really is about resting in the sovereignty of God. I prayed over Micah's life every single day. And the scripture says that all of our days are written in God's book. So the reality was that Micah was never going to see his 35th birthday. And that's a really difficult thing to wrestle with, the sovereignty of God in the place of pain and loss. But if I can trust Jesus with my life, with Micah's life, then I don't have to spend my life in fear, and I can rest in his goodness and his ability to redeem what the locusts have eaten. Let me just pray really quick for the people who are listening. Lord Jesus, I just lift up the first responder community to you, and we acknowledge the attack in our country against their lives, against your sovereignty, against the reality of truth and your power in this world. And Lord, I just ask that you would be a hedge of protection to all of our officers and all of our agencies. And Father, I just pray over the homes that keep the home fires burning, that keep stability in the lives of our first responders, Lord, that you would empower them, that you would strengthen them, that you would bring them to resources, that you would bring them to divine appointments, Lord, that you would provide for all of their needs body, soul, and spirit. Lord Jesus, thank you so much for this conversation with Gracie and the authority that you have given her and you have given me to speak into this place for people who are hurting, for people who need help. And I just ask a blessing on her. And I thank you for her willingness to surrender her life to your story and your hand. Gracie, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Hopecast. It was wonderful to get to have this conversation with you.
Thank you for having me. I pray that our conversation, it feels like a coffee chat, that these women who are listening, men who are listening, would be able to feel like they just kind of hung out with us for a little bit as we could share what we wish we would have known, what we wish we could have done differently. And I pray that it blesses someone.
It's absolutely going to. And they can connect with you at theshelterfoundation.org to get more resources for first responders, first responder marriage, and support for counseling. Everybody, this has been the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. You can connect with me at rachelflick.com. If you would rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast that pushes the message of hope to more people around the world. Everybody, thank you so much, and I'll see you next week on the Hopecast with Rachael Flick.
You've been listening to the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. To find out more, go to rachelflick.com. While there, you can discover more information about all of the platforms that this podcast is on. If you listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, we would appreciate if you would subscribe and leave us a review. Also, another great way to stay informed with the Hopecast is to follow Rachael on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Just click on the social media icons at the top of the page and you'll be directed to Rachael's social media sites. While you're online, you can book Rachael for your next speaking engagement. Her inspiring message will sure to engage and touch the heart of your audience at your next conference, church event, or business function. Go to rachelflick.com to book her today. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time for another edition of the Hopecast with Rachael Flick.